Everyone loves the idea of selling globally. What first comes to your mind is more clients, more prestige, higher prices. You get exposed to different brands in different markets. But what they don't tell you is that selling watches internationally comes with a minefield of new problems. You have tariffs and customs and constantly checking tracking to make sure that your client received the item. And today at Tailored Timepieces, we're going to be talking about something that's really interesting, and that's how to navigate the international watch market so that you can buy and sell with comfort and just learn the pros and cons of doing so. So you can figure out what's best for you as both a buyer and, if you're selling items online, how you could do so as a seller as well, without falling into these pitfalls. Okay, here we go. Now, I get it. Selling internationally sounds exciting, and it is when you first start. You deal with markets like Australia, Hong Kong, Dubai, Canada, even the UK. But what you need to realize is you need to be prepared when you're selling internationally and when you're buying internationally, because one wrong mistake is multiplied by the distance. One mistracking update, one incorrectly declared item value means that you are, as a buyer, waiting exponentially for this item. As a seller, all you can really do is make some calls to DHL while they figure out, of course, where your package is. And all the while, you are getting the business end of it talking to from your client. And it has happened so many times here at Tailored Timepieces where a package gets lost or a package gets scanned incorrectly because, of course, DHL and FedEx and all these shipping services are wonderful services. I mean, I definitely have my preferences, but they're a huge company, and 9 times out of 10, they don't know what is in the package, understandably, until, it's delivered to the client. So they're not treating your watch with the same level of care that they might be treating a pair of ice skates, or maybe a gift from somebody's grandparent that is worth, at least monetarily, so much less than that watch. And if every item gets treated with the same amount of care, you're bound to run into some problems. Now let's start with the obvious one, and that is customs. Every country is different, and the UK will add VAT, and Canada will stack duties, and some EU countries will even double tax you if they feel that you have misdeclared an item. And that's the number one thing that I always tell people: never underdeclare items. You might think as a seller that you are helping the buyer by letting them pay less in taxes, but honestly, that's the fastest way to lose your package. If they catch you, if they figure out that you are purposely underdeclaring the item, then they confiscate the item, they fine you, and they blacklist you from ever shipping in that country again. From a buyer's perspective, I would say this: I know that shipping internationally comes with its own challenges, and it adds, you need an extra layer of trust if you are dealing with someone who is in another country from you and you're buying from them, especially for the first time. But I would always do some research on what you are going to be taxed, and basically all the fees that you'll be charged prior to making that purchase. As much as we try to inform, it's always the buyer's responsibility to make sure that they understand pretty much to a T what kind of fees they will be charged when they purchase internationally. And if you as a buyer don't feel safe or don't feel comfortable paying those fees or waiting that extra long time to receive that item, that's totally okay. I would just recommend that you go ahead and buy something stateside, because at the end of the day, as a seller, I need to protect my reputation and I need to make sure that I have good standing with the custom agents in every country, so that we're not blacklisted and not allowed to sell, and essentially expand our business to other networks. It's a great tool, but if you ever feel like you are not able to wait, or basically you're not able to withstand the additional VAT and customs duties that comes with buying from an international seller, then just don't do it. I mean, I think something that people don't realize is it is a really tricky game. And if someone comes to me as a buyer and says, hey, I purposely want you to under-declare the package, and I'm not talking about, hey, I bought this item for $2,000, can you declare it for $1,500? I mean, I've had people ask me to declare items for $300 that are a $30,000 item. And I always say this: if we lose the item, or if something gets lost, and we need to declare insurance, you're going to get $300 back on your $30,000 item, because that's what you said was in the package. And then you're going to start pointing fingers at us, and you're going to start pointing fingers at other sellers and the custom agents, when in reality, everyone's really just trying to do their job in the best way possible. So please do your research before you go out and buy something internationally. And realize that it's going to take longer to get to you, and work with someone with a very good standing, whether that be on eBay or whether that be in your private network, that is keeping constant and consistent communication with you, because the second that communication lulls, I can tell you, people aren't happy. So it's just something to keep in mind. Now, here's a new one. We've also had fake return cases when you are dealing with things online. Internationally, we had just recently a client from Germany receive an item and essentially claim that we never sent the item, or that he received an empty box rather. And that's a scary experience if you're dealing with something overseas that you can't readily get on the phone, or maybe there's a time difference with that person, 6 hours, 4 hours, 8 hours, whatever it may be. That communication, as I said, and this is why communication is so important, that communication has a bit of a lull, and you can't consistently keep up with these people. So, in that situation, we were very lucky that eBay sided with us, because we recorded everything. And when we sell internationally, especially for the first time, we record the packing of the item, and we record the functionality of the item, so no one could say, hey, I received a defective product, hey, you shipped us an empty box. And as a buyer, it's very important to do that as well if you decide to return an item overseas. Now, again, there's nothing wrong with returning an item if it doesn't fit your needs, or if something is in fact defective. However, I would always recommend that you cover yourself by recording that item, so that the long transit that these packages get, whether that be a couple days. I mean, I've had something take as long as 2-3 weeks to reach the end user buyer, that nobody says, hey, this package is non-functional, and this item is not working. So that protects you both as a buyer and as a seller, to make sure that everyone's happy on both ends, and nobody is being dishonest and basically painting the picture of an item that to be factually correct. So, like I said, in that regard, I think the best way to handle things like fake returns, and also shipping delays, and losing items in shipping, you have to understand that as a buyer of these items, if you're shipping something or you're receiving something internationally, it takes longer to get to you, which also increases the risk that the item is going to be lost. I mean, we just had that happen also, a couple weeks ago, where the package went through customs and then disappeared, and we had to work with FedEx and DHL to make sure that the package did arrive to the client. Now, it did arrive about 10 days late, but the best way to resolve a lot of these issues, keeps going back to that idea of over communicating. You want to be on top of that person as a seller, but also as a buyer. I think a lot of buyers, people that we work with, are afraid to ask questions about the process. They're afraid to bother that person. And I can understand, if you're buying something on eBay from someone who's maybe a collector or maybe doesn't know what they have, you might say, hey, you know what? I don't want to keep bothering this guy. For us as a watch company, please bother us. I want to know everything you're thinking when it comes to, international shipping and receiving this item. I want to hear all your concerns so that we can promptly address them. And I want to know that you feel comfortable with this transaction. And if at any point you don't feel comfortable with this transaction, please bring it up, because that's our job. That should be the job of every watch I want to say watchmaker, but every watch seller who's taking this game seriously, and making sure that you feel safe and comfortable as a buyer to send your funds to someone who maybe you've only worked with once or twice, or maybe have never worked with before, and say, hey, listen, I'm going to send you $2, $3, $4, $5, $10,000, and make sure that you're gonna get it. And granted, we've talked a lot on this video about how things could go wrong. I mean, we could have issues of, as I said, fake returns, issues of shipping delays, issues of misdeclaring a package, or having a buyer or having a seller under declare your package. But it's not all bad. It's not all bad. And that's something that I want to impress upon you guys as well. I mean, we've worked with some great international buyers. It's great that when, you hear from somebody, or somebody sends me a photo of a watch that they got on their wrist that maybe wasn't available in their country, or maybe, hey, the taxes and fees didn't make sense, but because of arbitrage, it makes sense to go ahead and purchase that item, internationally through us. And I'm just so grateful to get that experience and to grow my network in that way. So again, I don't want you to step away from this video, and say, hey, I kind of left with a bad taste in my mouth to maybe never buy things internationally or never sell things internationally. It's not all bad. It can have a lot of benefits. You're growing your network. You're connecting with new clients. You're connecting with better collectors, and in some cases, some of the best collectors that we've ever worked with have come from these international markets like the UK, Australia, Dubai, and other, great areas that maybe watches are not readily available to them as often as they are here in the States. So if you are a seller of watches, conversely, don't be afraid to sell online. Just know that you have a different minefield, and know what you're getting into when you are putting up your listings to sell internationally. With that being said, if you found this video useful, if you've gotten some education, you've gotten some knowledge from this video, please subscribe, like the video. And if you've survived the perils of international buying and selling, and you've dealt with customs fees, and you've dealt with waiting extra long for your package, and you have a cool story to tell, please leave that below in the comments. I'd love to hear how other people deal with international purchases and international sales, because it does help us grow as a relatively new business. We've been in business for about 5 years now, but we're always learning and growing. So again, If you have something you want to say in the comments below, you have something you want to share, I want to hear it. Thanks so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.